video. I know people are, you know, they time is of the essence and whatnot. I would listen to them in increments, you know, when you're driving, when you're cleaning up, you know what I'm saying, when you got a little bit of free time, take it all in, because all of these episodes are very powerful and they're leading up to everything that you heard tonight, and they include me, the brother Hit Sayu, and Blue Pill Pope Pablo as well, right? So make sure you check out the last show that I just did, Sympathy for the Devil.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits, you go to school and learn the golden rule. So why are you acting like a bloody fool?
Why?
If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
They're in Chicago right now, you know what I'm talking about? They going door to door. They in the Shy. Y'all make sure to cover the good brothers in the nation and whatnot. I don't trust I don't trust the mean magic taking place. I just don't trust it. So I'm gonna have my my antennas up. You know, going to Chicago is very, you know, it has a lot of spiritual implications. But let us continue. This is some clips of what we were doing in part 1. You know what I mean? So I want to just let everybody know that this conversation that we're having tonight is a continuum. It is a continuum. These conversations are part of the zeitgeist that me and this young man, Blue Pillar, along with our KTLians, have been having for a very long time. Okay, so let's check it out.
Okay. Super Bowl halftime performer banned for life after waving flag for Palestine, Sudan. So Gaza is a curse word. Gaza is a dirty word in this country now, right? Because the Goosh real estate agents is like, we paid $500 billion, however much we paid for this candidacy, to get this dude in. We don't even want to hear none of that. We criminalizing protests. We bringing the military out. Don't even think about it. Feel me? So, yeah, they you know, they just turning it up and they going hard, and they recognize and realize that Kendrick is the last vestige of wokeness left. And they're like, yeah, we got to do something about this because he made us feel uncomfortable yesterday. Right? Huh? Yeah? Okay. You got to get that interview. Right? So they flexing. Pax Americana. Right? They're flexing all over the place. Maybe this is it. The brain eats itself from lack of sleep. My guy, he gets only 4 or 5 hours of sleep. So we are dealing with the quote-unquote guidance and leadership of somebody who is mentally unstable. Like, I was reading the reports about his mental decline during his campaign last year. Right? Dude is seriously off. And we're at the mercy of somebody who don't got their marbles intact. Right? Who got a diet of McDonald's and Coke. Right? Look at his wig. She look like the hamburger. The world's first DEI. Let's talk about it. Huh? The world's first DEI. So you know how they played this, right? This is Pope Alexander VI. This is the person who wrote the Intercaterra, which is called a Doctrine of Discovery, right? The reason that they came over here and said that they discovered America is because they had a papal bull in their hands that says when you encounter these pagans, right, they called them heathens and Saracens. Saracens, another word for Moors. They said wherever you encounter them at, if they don't recognize Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, take all their shit. But here's what they did. The new picture for Jesus is his son, Caesar Borgia, painted by his boyfriend, Michelangelo. So like, you gonna put your son as the face of quote-unquote Christ and then expect foreigners and indigenous people to recognize this person. But y'all said that y'all represent a God that is omnipresent and omnipotent, but he didn't know that there was another half of the world.
Get your eyeballs. Once they get your eyeballs, now they know how to both monetize it and bring things in fruition based off of you observing it. That's why the movies are called predictive programming. It's not necessarily predictive programming in that way. They just put the film in front of you, which ultimately is an idea. An idea becomes a screenplay. A screenplay becomes a script. And that becomes a movie. So anybody in this audience right now who got a bomb-ass idea, we live in a day and age with ChatGPT, with Gemini, with DeepSeek. I could go on for days. There's multiple tools out there. You literally could just chill in a crib by yourself for 2 hours and make a goddamn movie right now. Did you hear what I just said? I didn't say a movie script, y'all. I said in 2 hours, you could prompt and generate a movie. How many people got nvideo.com? Well, goddamn it, this is the reverse stick up. Y'all would make Busta Rhymes. He would put your hands where my eyes could see. No hands. He would tell Spliff, I'm packing up. Well, goddamn it, where's your notepads at? This is a lecture. We lecturizing right now. You know what I'm talking about? We're not proselytizing. We're sharing info. This info is a...
I ain't even gonna start.
They covering it up.
Are they covering it? Wow. I heard about this story with cause what was the dude Breeze? What's the quarterback? Yeah, famous quarterback. Yeah, Drew Brees. I heard about this 2 years ago.
We in New Orleans for this lecture right here. We in New Orleans.
Telling them how to go about it.
Yo, yeah. There was they was definitely telling them how to go about it on some PR. Right? So again, while we're sitting here and we think that these institutions that are moonlighting like quote-unquote spiritual institutions are for our benefit, or they're dealing with anything that we consider to be holy, we know just by looking at that alone that, like, come on son, something ain't right, right? That's the home of rotten apples. Off with their heads, right? You can't hold that next to what you consider to be holy. So they, again, people is playing in our face just like MAGA, okay? MAGA is what? It's the 5th and highest degree in the hierarchy in the Church of Satan. I didn't make it up. That's what it means. You can Google it. You can also Google what the meaning of MAGA is in all of these different languages. Again, we did not make this up. You can Google it. So what is MAGA?
So anybody that's pushing the MAGA line through politics and the state-run media is tricking you into thinking that this person has your best interests at hand, or somehow this person is pushing a line that you need to get behind, and then you wind up getting behind it, then you just tricked yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's not on the state, it's on you. You know, you're left whole in the bag. The state, their job is to trick you. Their job is to fool you. Their job is to present false messiahs and to have you worship them. Their jobs is to present an antichrist and roll them out, and you kiss the ring. You know what I'm talking about? You give them a lap dance, because that is exactly what your people did. Our people, us, the fan, you know, the Bible thumpers and whatnot. Yeah, they gave Charlie a lap dance. So, you know, in the realm of MAGA, like Blue Pill said, if this is the highest form of magic and whatnot, then these wizards and warlocks, they're committing magic tricks. You know, the highest magic trick is to fake a death. You know what I'm saying? That's the highest of. But what is a magician if he's not taking a risk? There's no magicians that are, you can't be a lazy magician. You have to bend You have to literally get out there and completely do some Houdini type shit. That's that way amongst other magicians and other magi's and other of the magus, you know, they'll look at you and hail you up because you're able to fool the world on some Hollywood type shit. Henceforth, why the magicians in Hollywood became so powerful and revered and whatnot, because their work, that, you know, they had results from the work that they was putting in. Yeah, let's get back on this. So this is another lecture that take a screenshot. Go check this out. This is the debut of Hit Sayu Aku, right? When we did that Dead Internet Theorem, Meme Martyrs. No, I think this might be his second show. But we got a trilogy up there on Know the Ledger 444. This a bona fide classic. It will go down in history. You know what I mean? And we're gonna continue to expound upon it until it turns into something that falls into the hands of the youth, because ultimately they are the ones who this new language is for. They're going to be able to interpret it. It's an iOS system that's directly built for them to integrate into their systems and whatnot. So hey, yeah, this one too, this was the third, this was the trilogy. We did it on Saturday. All right, Algorithms of War. And for the sake of tonight's lecture, I'm not gonna revisit and go over everything that was broken down, because all of that is a monologue that gets us where we are tonight. So make sure you go and check that out, because these serve as study guides. Came across this image today on FB as I was going through my memories and whatnot, and it was to this day that we were in the National Black Theater 14 years ago, I believe. And this was a gathering that Sinetta put together. You know, this was the conscious community at that time. We got Natural Tahuti up there, who's serving 40 years. We got our good brother Seville, Raza Mariah Bey, Taj Tariq Bey, Abundant Bey, Black Dot, brother Polite, who's incarcerated doing 7, brother Reb Hill, Professor Griff. And it just harkens me back into a time where we were American, we were on our American God type, you know, of we were on that stage, you know, and on this big stage is where mere mortals were turned into immortals, right? Where man becomes God on the stage, even though the whole world is a stage. This was one of the biggest stages, you know. That is not Sister Myra, that happens to be Abundance Child, and that's Sister Roz Mariah Bey with the turban and the head wrap on. That's Sister Roz Mariah Bey. Okay, so I want to livicate tonight's presentation to the not just the memory, you know what I mean? Not just the memory, because this is more than a memory. This is a meme. This is a motif. This man is a movement onto himself. You know, there's so many things that Baba Samaj represents, that when you see his face, when you see his smile, I hope that it represents the music, it represents the fashion, it represents the jewelry, it represents the lifestyle, it represents the wisdom, it represents the charisma. There was so much to this man that I hope the world is able to find out and know about. And I want to christen him one of the titles of an American God. In my world, in my hyperstition, in my reality, in my universe that I've created, this is a God. This is an American God, you know, and he has ascended into godhood. You cannot be an American God while you're still breathing, unfortunately, and whatnot. The gods could work through you, but in this world that we live in, you know, It's the ascension principle that puts you in a place where, you know, you can never be in as a true and living, right? So you could be the true and living American God, of course, on your way to godhood, but the graduation that brings you into godhood on this plane of existence would be, you know, crossing over. Okay. Baba Samaj is in a better place. I'm definitely willing that into existence. He lived a very, very fruitful life, and I just can't wait to hear his story get told. And I want to be there when the world bears witness to his greatness. A lot of artwork. I remember going into Brooklyn and entering into his kingdom, you know, walking into his kingdom that was in Crown Heights and you know, Bed-Stuy, right near Albany Projects. And they had the walls painted. They had graffiti, not graffiti, they had artwork, hermetic artwork covering the graffiti. They had murals of ancient deities. This is before social media. This is before, I've never seen this before. This was the first time that I bear witness to greatness in real life. It wasn't a hyper, it wasn't in cyberspace. It wasn't tucked away in my imagination. It was real. It was in real life. It was IRL. I got to touch it. I got to touch the wall. I got to touch the gate that had the pictures on it. You know, it made me very proud, and it woke up something inside of me. So I just want to say to Baba Heru, you know, I love you. He even knew me and Blue when we were in the womb. That's how far back it goes. He knew of us before we actually arrived. He was there when we were germinating in Mama Pill's stomach, in her belly, in her matrix. So this one is, you know, this one is, it hits close to home. So I just want to say Ashe, all right? I also want to open up the chambers of godhood to Mama Asata, okay, who is also entered into the realm of the pantheons of the ancestors, okay? As we all know, her ascension came at a very precarious time, okay? Many people's timelines were being flooded by a lot of Kirkwood, a lot of propaganda, a lot of psyops, a lot of questions about, is this man even dead? Who killed him? When did he die? How did he get, you know, all of this confusion. This should not surround, right? This should not surround a person's, well, it was an assassination, allegedly. But it's more confusion than there is answers. And then when we had our people capitulate, okay, to an open enemy, when our people blindly and ignorantly capitulated, here comes an example of everything Charlie Kirk wasn't. Here comes an example of everything that he probably would have rallied against. Well, he didn't probably, he rallied against. Here comes an example of the complete polar opposite. Someone who, in so many terms, would be a person's either freedom fighter or their terrorist. It just depends on what side of the aisle you stand on. Okay? The great divine speaks through signs. The first sign was Baba Heru on the timeline, the Ankh Man, who himself was law enforcement in his professional career, right? But who rallied against the very same system that they are telling us that Captain Kirk, right, was upholding, and that we should all be plugged into, and we should all bow down to, and we should all worship. Baba Heru said, nah, I don't think so. You know, you need to go know thyself. Go and get on a journey. Find out who you really are beyond the confines of the concrete jungle, right? And not only did he talk the talk, but he walked the walk, right? He carried the ankh, which at a time was frowned upon. It was not looked at like you were holding a scepter of power. It was frowned upon, okay? So Mama Asata, she represents freedom. She represents struggle. She represents resilience. She represents consistency. She represents repetition. Because if she was not consistent and if she was not repetitious, she would not be free. She was going up against the apparatus that is a quote unquote predator of every single corner of the earth, of the planet. There's no corner of the planet that this predator has not been known to travel to enact this prey. Okay, but she was able to maintain and withstand. Never let your enemies choose your enemies for you. Never let your enemies choose your enemies for you. Something that we were seeing taking place just a few days ago in this whole PSYOP situation. Your enemy is choosing your hero and your enemy for you. Very dangerous, extremely dangerous. One of the main things that is going to be a casualty of this new war that we're entering into, hyperdimensional war, where hyper reality and hyper sigils and whatnot have been now melted. You don't know what's real. You don't know what's real. You have no idea. Okay, but I know this is real. Okay, I know not just what I'm looking at. I know when I see freedom. I know when I see somebody that's free. I know when I see somebody that's completely at peace. Even though she couldn't go to the quote unquote the block party. Even though she couldn't hang out for some mimosas and catch a brunch and whatnot. Yeah, she's good. Okay? And she will be memorialized. She will be immortalized. She will be idolized. She will be lionized. And she will be valued in my universe. Okay, because in my universe, you know, is where the great ones are safe. In my universe is where I am going to resurrect and restore and tell the story and continue the story as well, because there is no such thing as death. Energy lives on forever, and with the blessings or blessings of each one of these quote unquote IPs, or each one of these individuals, family members, soon as I get the word, yeah, I'm bringing them to life. Okay, this is how you pay homage. I've been waiting for statues to be resurrected of great ones who I watch walk, and shoes have not been filled as of yet. I've been waiting for statues. I've been waiting for marble. I've been waiting for structures. I've been waiting for some type of homage. I've been waiting for murals. I've been waiting for toys and everything, and nothing has come yet. So at what point do I go forth and say, well, it's time for me to just do what I've been waiting for? I even heard Blue say something earlier about he was waiting for something, and I'm like, nah, you waiting, but it's really for you to do. So I just have to take this up in my own hands, and I'm gonna do what I need to do to keep these icons. There's so many. She's just one of the latest. Baba Heru, one of the latest. But the goal and the intention is to meet these elders halfway one day, where I can hand them the keys to a resort in the blue zone somewhere, to a villa somewhere, so I can hand them the keys or a plane ticket so they could go somewhere and just relax in their later years, in their twilight. And it has to start with Mama Pill, of course, and Papa Pill, you know. But that's what they deserve. So if it's going to be the selling of their toys, of their comics, of their cartoons, whatever it has to be, I'm going to utilize this technology to get it right for them, because, you know, they deserve so much more. Check this out.
We're here today to unveil the 2025 New Jersey State Police Most Wanted list. Our number one fugitive, Joanne Chesimard, of which there remains a $2 million bounty. She's a convicted murderer wanted for the murder of Warner Forster 52 years ago.
John Chizmat is a government name for Assata Shakur, a 77-year-old Black Liberation Army member. The U.S. government has been trying to rearrest her for allegedly killing New Jersey State Trooper Werner Forster in 1973.
1973, before I was even born, right? So this is a struggle that she's been going through longer than I've been alive. Let that sink in. Longer than my lifespan, right? Her struggle is longer than me and Blue's lifespan, fam.
In 2013, the administration of the first black president doubled the bounty to $2 million. The 1973 incident also killed Zaid Malik Shakur and captured Sundiata Acoli, who spent 49 years in prison before being released in 2022. Shakur's comrades had freed her from Clinton Correctional Facility in 1979. A few years later, she re-emerged in Cuba, where Fidel Castro granted her political asylum. Speaking at a television event in 2005, Castro said U.S. officials wanted to portray her as a terrorist, something that was an injustice, a brutality, an infamous lie. Shakur has since become a Cuban citizen, earned a postgraduate degree from the University of Havana, and as the godmother of the slain rap artist Tupac Shakur, she advocated for hip-hop's revolutionary message for oppressed people.
So if people say that they love Assata, a lot of the action that's going on, they're building up a lot of energy around her. She's going to be part of the simulacra. She's going to be a part of the simulation, right? But she has a vision that she wanted to see. Yeah, she had a nationality, yep, but she has a vision. So if people say that they love her, then carry out her vision, right? Carry on tradition. Become what it is to see. Become what Tupac ultimately wanted to, wanted to create in the whole 50 niggas movement and whatnot. So this is how you carry the mantle. This is how you get blessings from the ancestors from the other side. This is how you summon their spirit when you're in creative mode, when you're doing the mission that they spoke of.
2 months after her arrest, Assata wrote a letter from prison.
Remember, she was shot twice, right? So once again, Assatas are not just born, they're made. They're not just born, they're made. Okay? The system made her. The system made her. She was forged in fire. She saw the mask get pulled back. She saw what's really behind that face, behind that mask, right? You can't tell her. She knows that you can't speak appeasement into what it is that she's up against. You can't coddle it. You can't convince it. You can't compromise with it. That's what she knows. So she had to get as far away as possible from it. The parasite.
And called To My People. Here's a part of it.
Black brothers, black sisters, I want you to know that I love you, and I hope that somewhere in your hearts you have love for me. I want to apologize to you for being on the New Jersey Turnpike. I should have known better. The Turnpike is a checkpoint where black people are stopped, searched, harassed, and assaulted. Revolutionaries must never be in too much of a hurry or make careless decisions. He who runs when the sun is sleeping will stumble many times. I am a black revolutionary, and as such, I am a victim of all the wrath, hatred, and slander that America is capable of. The rulers of this country and their flunkies have committed some of the most brutal, vicious crimes in history. These maniacs are not fit to judge me or any other black person on trial in America. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Check out your man.
we had not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands.
So yeah, he put $2 million on her head. You know what I mean? That was him. He put $2 million on her head and whatnot, right? So one thing that we do have to understand, and it goes back to conversations that were being had. These are decisions that one has to make. That we have entered into a space where you just can't play dress up anymore, right? It's one of those things where if you even click like on a memorial for Mama Assata, you've now been entered into a data bank. You've been chosen by Palantir to be, you know, subversive, right? If you even click a like, if you write anything, any text on this, that the algorithm knows if you are watching the post for more than just a scroll, and it will probably take note of that. But it's a decision that you have to make now moving forward. Are you going to authentically just say, you know what, man, rest in peace, rise in power, you know, bliss up, queen? Or are you going to just keep scrolling by and, you know, look away? You know, I've seen movies like that where people got compromised. I think it was Heat with Val Kilmer, and they just looked away and drove by. You know what I mean? Like, are you going to not look at the situation? Are you going to ignore it?
Play it again, Baker.
Hulu and the Phoenix. Prison Activist Surveillance Program. Prison Activist Surveillance Program. Everybody that came on the VI, yeah, they all in your BI. Chess Rob was the FBI code name for a counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO investigation that targeted Black liberation activist Assata Shakur. So Chess Rob. Okay. Her name was Joanne Deborah Byron, and she was married to Louis Chesimard. Right, so they broke it down to Chess Rob. and the Great Divine, we will see if this meeting with the 800 generals point to targeting individuals behind enemy lines. I have a feeling that it will. Okay, you can look at those eyes and see that she's seen a lot. Okay, she's seen a lot. You just look at her eyes and tell that she's seen a lot. She's witnessed a lot of horrors in life. Okay, you can see the before and after. Now, one of the beautiful things about this whole situation of her ascension is that, you know, the numerical ties that she has with Afeni. Okay, they share numerically, they share a lot of bonds. Okay, also Tupac Amaru Shakur. So we're talking about the return of the Shakurs, right? Cthulhu, Afeni, Tupac, and Asada, right? The four, okay? And there are other Shakurs. These are the Shakurs that my generation were very familiar with just through the music of Tupac, right? Just through him mentioning their names and whatnot. But the Shakurs are reunited. I will burn candles. I will put them on the altar. I will play Tupac's music religiously like I did while putting together this presentation. I would channel. I would do my due diligence. I would play Asada's, they need to play Asada's vocals over Tupac beats, right? Asada's vocals over Tupac production, Tupac instrumentals and whatnot. You know, even Afeni as well, even Matulu, okay? Because the message, the griots, the message, the word, okay? The word is eternal, immortal, okay? The fight for justice is not over. These are freedom fighters. These are not dope fiends. These are not lean sippers to where they're mumbling their words and they're incoherent. No, they think before they speak. Everything. Every time that they said something, it was worth something. So we can find their audio, and I would highly suggest that you whip it up, mix it up, put a little bit of Tupac instrumentals on it, or whatever. You know, don't do that. Just play it straight. But the message should be heard. You know, these black girls and whatnot, and these young boys, they need to hear the vocals of Afeni, Asada, and Tupac, and Matulu. All right. Afeni passed on a Monday, Asada on a Thursday. Asada Shakur is 139, Tupac is 139, Afeni is 113. Okay, both years are 9 years. 2016 when Afeni passed is a 9. 2025 is a 9. That marks endings and completion. The closing cycles. Closing cycles. Okay, Ashe to her. So this beautiful family, this beautiful black family, this legacy right here, right? As flawed as it may have been, you know, he who is unflawed, throw your first marble. As flawed as people may have wanted to, I don't know the word, because, you know, people are judge of Afeni because of her unfortunate, you know, addictions and whatnot. But we just seen survivors who were going through survivor remorse and survivors of a $1 billion apparatus, a machine mowing down their loved ones. She had PTSD. You know what I'm talking about? Her and other Panthers. PTSD. You You know, friends on the run, loved ones in the box and whatnot. Then people watching you. All of that stuff could drive anybody crazy and seek refuge in chemicals and stuff like that. Escapism, right? From that pain. Tell me about your pain.
In 2013, the FBI added the first woman ever to their most wanted terrorist list. Her name was Assata Shakur, and at the time she was put on the list, the alleged crime she committed happened over 40 years ago. If you look at this list today, Assata still occupies the #1 spot. So what makes Assata so dangerous, and why is the FBI obsessed with capturing her? Hey everybody, Professor Moore here, and today I want to talk about the remarkable and controversial life of Assata Shakur. I first learned about Assata while doing research for my dissertation, and after reading her autobiography, I became convinced that more people need to know about her life and struggles. This is her story. Assata was born in 1947 with the name Joanne Chesimard, and she grew up in North Carolina and New York. And from the time she was a little girl, she experienced all of the ugliness of American racism. She described how, "I can remember clearly squatting in the bushes with mosquitoes biting me, and my grandmother handing me toilet paper because we could not find a place with a colored bathroom. Sometimes we were hungry, but there was no place to eat. Other times we were sleepy and there was no hotel or motel that would admit us. If I sit and add up all the colored toilets and drinking fountains in my life and all of the back of the buses or the Jim Crow rail cars or the places I couldn't go, it adds up to one great ball of anger." It took a while for Joanne to begin to question what she had been taught about America. She explained how, as a child, "I believed that America was really a good country. Like my teacher said in school, the greatest country on the face of the earth. I grew up believing that stuff, really believing it. And now, 20 odd years later, it seems like a bad joke." As a teenager, Joanne started doing her own research, and she began to question everything she had ever been taught. She realized that we had been completely brainwashed and we didn't even know it. We accepted white value systems and white standards of beauty, and at times we accepted the white man's view of ourselves. We had never been exposed to any other point of view or any other standard of beauty. Joanne finally came to see that nobody is going to give you the education you need to overthrow them. Nobody is going to teach you your true history, teach you your true heroes, if they know that that knowledge will help set you free. Schools in America are interested in brainwashing people with Americanism, giving them a little bit of education and training them in skills needed to fill the positions the capitalist system requires. As long as we expect America's schools to educate us, we will remain ignorant. Once Joanne began this process of self-discovery, she made an important observation that would shape her life. She came to see that America is plagued by two evils, racism and capitalism. She concluded that capitalism meant that rich businessmen owned the wealth, while socialism meant that the people who made the wealth owned it. And she believed that both the Democratic and the Republican Party are controlled by millionaires, and they are only interested in holding on to their power. She said, "To me, the revolutionary struggle of black people had to be against racism, capitalism, imperialism, and sexism, and for real freedom under a socialist government." When she was in her 20s, Joanne briefly joined the Black Panther Party, but as that party started to break down, she joined a more militant group called the Black Liberation Army. Joining this group changed her life. Joanne now decided she would dedicate her life to becoming a full-time revolutionary. She said, "Of all the things I wanted to be when I was a little girl, a revolutionary certainly wasn't one of them, and now it was the only thing I wanted to do. Everything else was secondary." This was such a major step and departure from her previous life that she decided to adopt a new name. Joanne Chesimard decided to discard her slave name and adopt the name Assata Shakur. Shakur means thankful one, and Assata means she who struggles. Joanne became Assata in 1971 at the age of 24, and she couldn't have chosen a more fitting name. Because from 1971 to 1979, her life was one long series of struggles against the criminal justice system, racism, and the capitalist system that upholds it all. All of her troubles began on May 2nd, 1973, when Shakur and 2 other members of the Black Liberation Army were pulled over by police on the New Jersey Turnpike. After a struggle, a Black Liberation Army member and a police officer were shot dead, and Asada was badly wounded by 2 gunshots. Asada was then charged with murder and several other crimes. Now that police had Asada in their custody, they charged her with crimes dating back to 1971. And over a 5-year period, she faced a total of 7 trials for her alleged activities with the Black Liberation Army. These included bank robbery, kidnapping, attempted murder, and fatally shooting a police officer. Before she ever stepped into a courtroom, law enforcement and the media had already painted her as a violent, un-American criminal. That's why she felt an urgent need to get a message to the public contradicting her widespread demonization. Asada was able to convince her aunt and lawyer, Evelyn Williams, to bring a tape recorder to one of their meetings at the prison so she could record a message. On Independence Day 1973, Asada recorded her message titled "To My People" that was then broadcast on several radio stations. In the message, she said, "Black brothers, black sisters, I want you to know that I love you, and I hope that somewhere in your hearts you have love for me. My name is Asada Shakur, and I am a revolutionary. A black revolutionary. By that I mean that I have declared war on all of the forces that have raped our women, castrated our men, and kept our babies empty-bellied. I have declared war on the rich who prosper on our poverty, the politicians who lie to us with smiling faces, and all the mindless, heartless robots who protect them and their property. I am a black revolutionary, and as such, I am a victim of all of the wrath, hatred, and slander that America is capable of. Like all other black revolutionaries, America is trying to lynch me. It should be clear to us by now who the real criminals are. Nixon and his crime partners have murdered hundreds of third world brothers and sisters."
So Asada stood for everything Charlie Kirk was against. Pick a side and stay there, cowards. You know, I'm appalled by the level of cowardice that I'm seeing, and the sheer hypocrisy, you know. But you know, like I said, the great divine speaks through signs, and when everybody was cowering and trying to code switch and, you know, just toe that line, Asada made ascension, and her story sanitized the timeline. Her story stood up when others had shaky legs and whatnot. Her story was able to speak for millions of people who are being silenced, who are being muffled, who are being censored, who are afraid to say something, rightfully so. I mean, you know, this is arcane, what's happening inside of this quote unquote government right now. So without people having to step into that trap that's being set, boom, Mama Asada makes ascension. She gives up the husk, and her story, without anybody having to say anything, her story becomes the antithesis to something that was being played upon the people in the form of a psychological operation, utilizing, you know, our compassion, utilizing the meme martyr program, utilizing a public execution, utilizing our humanity, all of these tricks and whatnot. Come to find out, there's mounting evidence that this man might not even be unalived, right? That there's so many conflicting stories. There's so much proof of hologram technology. There's so many things that do not add up. But what does add up and what does make sense and what we don't have to quote unquote wrestle our brains against is what Asada Shakur stood for, what she was about, what she was not about, with her being able to quote unquote make transition on her own terms, what does that mean? That means a lot. That means that she won on her own terms. She didn't get paraded through the city like how they had, remember Game of Thrones when they had Cersei and they was parading her through the city and they were throwing stones and excrement and everything at her. They were trying to put her on a perp walk. They trying to do the Asada perp walk, but that didn't happen. That did not happen. We would have had to see Barack Obama on Twitter or X celebrating him and Michelle, right? We would have had to witness that in our lifetime. That would have broke the hearts of so many of our elders and stuff like that. That have broke the hearts of so many people. But nah, that didn't happen. We don't get to see that. We don't get to see that. She is now on a higher realm, doing higher magic on higher principalities and other entities in the spirit realm that need to be finished. Finish him! Finish him! Don't ever put him in the same sentence. Astaghfirullah. Y'all didn't have no defense against that MLK. Niggas tuck they tails. I seen it in real time, bro. The people that could have said something ain't say nothing. I think the only one that I saw with a good thought piece was Ta-Nehisi Coates. Everybody else cowered, bro, and let them desecrate MLK and drag that man's whole legacy. Was scared to say anything against Charlie. So now we know. Now we know. It didn't even take no pressure. No pressure. And niggas is folding like folding chairs. But anyway.
Christian influencers. Okay. You said, we talked about the woke right.
So Netanyahu is having influencers in Is It Real, and they're reprogramming them. They're doing, this is where Charlie Kirk would have been. They're flaunting it around the world because they're showing the world this is what was for Charlie. Now Charlie is not here, allegedly. Either Charlie had to take a bag and allow them to fake unalive him and go live in a bunker somewhere and let Erica wander, or he got clipped and by you know who, and now they are just basically showing their fangs and showing how they are reprogramming the journalists from the West and whatnot. Remember, they have to control the minds of the youth. And here he says, here he admits, here he speaks of them being on the forefront of this war, this information war, and ground zero being TikTok and then X, social media, where they are losing the fight and where they have now taken over TikTok through the purchase, right, with Oracle and with all of Netanyahu's friends, and then compromising Elon, the algorithm, Palantir, all of these things in play. So this is It Real? This is their victory lap. They're closing out a lot of chapters in their final season of whatever this horror movie is that they're producing.
Christian influencers. Okay. You said, we talked about the woke right. And you said, I call it the woke Reich. That's a brilliant observation. The woke right, because these people, you know, they're not any different from the woke left. I mean, they're insane. They're but they're actually meeting on some of those things. And what we have to do is we have to secure that part of the base of our support in the United States. That is being challenged systematically. A lot of this is done with money. Money of NGOs, vast. Money of governments, vaster.
The money is for the bots. The money is for the bots. Okay, imagine them dropping 10 million on a bot army from Botswana.
Okay, we have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers. I think you should also talk to them if you have a chance. To that community, they're very important. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. You know, the weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well. Okay, and you can't fight with cavalry. That doesn't work very well. And you have these new things, you know, like drones, things like that. I won't get into that. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media.
So the battlefield, ladies and gentlemen, are for your hearts and your minds. The new battlefield is for your mind. Social media is not social media. Social media is a battlefield. It's been a battlefield, but it's even becoming more of a battlefield. Yeah, your data as well. And in this new AI, this new world that we are living in.
And the most important purchase that is going on right now is TikTok. TikTok, number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one that's most important? X. That's very good. And, you know, so we have to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy. He's a friend. We should talk to him. Now, if we can get those two things, we get a lot. And I could go on other things, but that's not the point right now. We have to fight the fight, okay? To give direction to the Jewish people and give direction to our non-Jewish friends or those who could be our Jewish our friends. Are we going to succeed with everyone? No. Will there be a strong counterpart? Yes.
The greatest lie humanity tells itself is that we have outgrown human sacrifice. We call it by different names now and make our offering to different gods. We offer young men we call soldiers, as if the designation means that their mothers cry less when they die. We call masses of humanity collateral damage and turn our eyes away from the pictures of their lifeless bodies as we sip our morning coffee. And the truth is, we don't do it because we are heartless. We do it because we believe that it is necessary for the world to keep running.
Remember, Rosh Hashanah, right? When Captain Kirk gets clipped, okay? And that eclipse comes in, right? We're talking about the power and also the ritual starts to take place. This is around the blood moon, okay? This is what they're talking about this year. This is her speaking the other day. So let me just rewind it.
The greatest lie humanity tells itself is that we have outgrown human sacrifice. We call it by different names now and make our offering to different gods. We offer young men we call soldiers, as if the designation means that their mothers cry less when they die. We call masses of humanity collateral damage and turn our eyes away from the pictures of their lifeless bodies as we sip our morning coffee. And the truth is, we don't do it because we are heartless. We do it because we believe that it is necessary for the world to keep running. We do it because we believe that the gods whose favor we so desperately seek, freedom, security, prosperity, flourishing, that they demand blood as the price of their favor. We do it because we cannot see any other choice. And maybe that's why we read the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, on Rosh Hashanah. Because the story of the Akedah isn't about inconceivable obedience. When Abraham prepares to sacrifice Isaac, he is just accepting the same bargain of blood we still accept today. That some need to die for the world to flourish.
Okay, so there you have it. I mean, sometimes you just gotta let them say it, but what's understood doesn't need to be said. So we're dealing with eschatology, right? These are the people who are hellbound on end time prophecies. This is all about biblical end time prophecies. So the preparation and the understanding and almost the willingness to see large swaths of populations die off is something that they're looking forward to, because like she said, their God requires blood sacrifice. That's what their God requires, under other names or whatever, but they have to continuously and constantly feed this egregor. So with that, knowing that, let's look at this next thing that they don't speak about a lot. There was a lot of press on a lady from the Ukraine that got unalived and whatnot, and they used that as propaganda to begin to beat on these drums. However, nobody talks about what's going on with the sisters. Okay, nobody's talking about this, what's going on with these sisters and these men. Check this out.
Because when you notice black women going for white men, they don't take all them weaves with them. They don't take all them lashes with them. They don't take all that makeup with them. They don't take that obesity with them. They don't do none of all of that deep voice, hearty, I'm gonna get in your face, cuss you out, boy, you better. They don't bring none of that to Zaddy. None of it. Because they know that Zaddy don't accept that. And he's not gonna accept them with it. They're gonna have to act like women if they want Zaddy to pay them any attention at all. And they're gonna have to be the best kind of women to get the lowest white men. They're gonna have to be the best quality of women to get the lowest quality of white men.
Breaking news. FBI Director Kash Patel agrees to team up with Democrat Rep. Jared Moskowitz to push censorship of Americans on social media who share conspiracy theories about Israel. Today there was a shooter. Just today. Right? Oh no, this was yesterday on the 27th. Or the day before. Right? So the date, the shooter that they had in North Carolina, right? A yacht basin. Right there in Cape Fear, ladies and gentlemen. If you know anything about Cape Fear, we talking about the Wilmington Massacre that took place in 1897, where they literally clogged up Cape Fear with black bodies and whatnot. They said that they clogged up Cape Fear with bodies, right? So there was another one of their quote unquote ritualistic homeland terroristic sleeper cells awakened and activated, and this time it was this dude who went out on an award show with a country singer. So that's like the equivalent of somebody dating a rapper, and then they go out there and do a mass shooting and whatnot, right? So there's a focus on all of these conspiracy theories, but nobody over there with Mr. Cash is talking about going after these quote unquote supremacists that are, you know, racking up bodies by the week. So I saw that there was Donald Trump went over to the UK. He was with King Charles, but he was also with the head of the UK. And then right after that, immediately after that meeting in Buckingham Palace, then we get this.
They were taking another step to fulfill that promise. Starting in late 2026, Alberta will be the first province to implement the addition of Canadian citizenship markers to our driver's licenses and identification cards. This simple addition will have a profound impact on how Albertans interact with their government and their communities. Why are we doing this? Because we believe in making things better, faster, and more convenient for everyone. By including citizenship information on these cards, we're streamlining access to vital services, whether it's applying for student aid, accessing accessing health benefits, or supporting those with disabilities. No longer will Albertans need to carry multiple documents or face unnecessary hurdles. This change means that when Albertans need to prove both their identity and their citizenship, they'll be able to do so with a single document. It's about reducing red tape, cutting down on paperwork, and making sure that government works for you, not the other way around. Programs like Assured Income for the Severely Handicapped, Alberta Student Aid, and the Persons with Developmental Disabilities program all require proof of citizenship. With this new marker, accessing these supports will be simpler and more secure. Adding a Canadian citizenship marker is also about protecting our democracy. Election security is a vital concern in Canada. By adding citizenship information to Alberta's driver's licenses and ID cards, we're taking a proactive step toward ensuring that only eligible citizens cast ballots in our elections. This helps safeguard the integrity of our electoral process and strengthens trust in our democracy. I also want to be clear that non-citizens, such as permanent residents, that still qualify for Alberta's driver's licenses will not have any marker displayed. Lastly, as we announced several weeks ago, we will also be integrating Alberta healthcare numbers onto driver's licenses, also in late 2026. This will also provide additional security around healthcare numbers, as we have learned through our refocusing of the healthcare system that there are more than 500,000 healthcare numbers registered than there are people living in Alberta. 530,438 to be exact, based on second quarter 2025 population estimates.
So basically, this is in Canada, right? The real ID. Everywhere where King Charles is, has the ownership of the land, they're beginning to push the digital ID. Immediately after the King Charles meeting, Trump went to the UN and he pushed the real ID and the digital ID. And then in the UK, Kramer and them, they started pushing the digital ID. So with Palantir, with all of the tech bros, with their final, with this push that they are going to build this wall to hold people inside of the USA, and with the rise of this Project 2025 inspired autocracy, yeah. And then of course with this social credit system that Isn't Real is building up, yeah, this is going to be spooky.
Religion is a powerful thing. People who have tried to maintain control throughout the history of the world have used religion to keep people together around their agenda. And that is part of the American story that we can't overlook.
Yeah, I'm one of those 81% of evangelicals who voted for Trump in 2016.
Did you vote for him again in 2020 or 2024?
No.
What happened?
We need a recognition of the power of history to explain the present.
So there has to be this repentance. There has to be this coming to understand that we are wrong, and definitely not utilize religion to further our own private and political gain.
The sins of our fathers are visited upon us generation after generation because they've become the habits of our bodies and the habits of the communities that we exist in.
Why modern Israel isn't the same as biblical Israel. Modern Israel was founded on May 14th, 1948, but it has no special connection to the Israel.
They were taking another step to fulfill that promise. Starting in late 2026, Alberta will be the first province to implement.
Religion is a powerful thing.
This right here, please pay attention, ladies and gentlemen, because we get confused as to what Israel is, modern day Israel. We become very confused. So please listen to this video and let's pay full attention as to what's being said. And keep in mind of what that man just said about religion, religious fanaticism, and all of those things, and how they're keeping people under lock and step.
Why modern Israel isn't the same as biblical Israel. Modern Israel was founded on May 14th, 1948, but it has no special connection to the Israel of the Bible. This statement may sound shocking, but it's theologically true. The term Israel is the translation of the name Yisroel. It was given to Jacob for staying true to God. Jacob's descendants became known as the people of Israel. They were God's chosen people with a specific mission. They were meant to bring salvation to the entire world. That mission was fulfilled through Jesus. He was born a Jew, lived under the law, and completed God's promise. Jesus said,
"Salvation is from the Jews."
He lived, died, and rose again for both Jews and non-Jews. Through him, all believers became part of God's family. Jesus made Israel big enough for everyone on earth. This means biblical Israel never actually ended. It just expanded to include all Christians everywhere. God's people are now found wherever the gospel is believed. Modern Israel is simply a normal country that was created after the Holocaust. It has a government, military, economy, and citizens like any other nation, but it holds no special status in God's eyes. Its theological significance is no greater than that of Canada or Brazil. The confusion comes from two things: name and land. Yes, the modern country sits where Jesus once walked. Yes, it uses the same name, but names and locations don't make it biblical Israel. Of course, this is just one view called replacement theology or supersessionism. This remains one of the most debated topics in Christian theology.
Supersessionism, please look it up. Please look it up. This is simulacra. We're talking about simulacra in real life. Supersessionism, replacement theology, ladies and gentlemen. Replacement theology. I know the Pope Pablo speaks on things of this nature. Replacement theology, right? Supersessionism. This is not you hearing the word and you thinking it's the same. It is not the same. We are not the same. Those people are still not found. They're still lost and found.
I'm going to say as little as humanly possible so that I can actually avoid censorship for once. Just pay very, very close attention to what's happening to his shirt. It pops up. Something explodes from out of his shirt, and that's where the B word comes out of. Pay very close attention. See? Huh, I wonder what that could be. And it honestly seems like this whole thing was scripted, because he goes, "Is that including or not including gang violence?" And then BAM! It happens. See, look. Boom! What's going on? That's not ricochet from a bullet. That's not none of that weird stuff, guys. Something fishy is happening here. Man, I wonder what that could be. Maybe something in his shirt was like remote detonated, and that's what caused all of the B word to pour out. And if you notice, the B word was coagulated, and if you get hit in that part right there, it wouldn't be coagulated, it would be bright red and super liquidy. So maybe it's that stuff that they use in movies, maybe, but entertainment only. I made it up. Please don't ban this video.
Check this out. The number one culprit in this fake situation, right? Whose hand would be something, whose hand could be behind
the leaders of France,
something so nefarious, if that was even the case, if they were lying through their teeth, if they were mischievous, if they were deceiving the people, who could put something together like that? I wonder.
Week, the leaders of France, Britain, Australia, Canada, and other countries unconditionally recognized a Palestinian state. They did so after the horrors committed by Hamas on October 7th. Horrors praised on that day by nearly 90% of the Palestinian population. Now, let me say that again. Nearly 90% of Palestinians supported the attack on October 7th. It's not supported only, they celebrated it. They danced on the rooftops. They threw candies. That's both in Gaza and in Judea, Samaria, the West Bank as you call it. And it's just the way they celebrated another horror, 9/11. They danced on the rooftops. They cheered.
So there's literally a term called a dancing Israelis. This man gets in front of the UN and says with a straight face that Palestinians were dancing for 9/11, right? This is the type of people that we dealing with. White lies.
They threw candy. You know what message the leaders who recognize the Palestinian state this week sent to the Palestinians? It's a very clear message. Murdering Jews pays off. Well, I have a message for these leaders. When the most savage terrorists on earth are effusively praising your decision, you didn't do something right. You did something wrong, horribly wrong. President Trump understands better than any other leader that Israel and America face a common threat. He showed the world that when Iran and its proxies murder Americans, take Americans hostage, shout death to America, burn American flags, and try to assassinate the President of the United States, not once, but twice. He showed them there is a price to pay for all that.
See, so that's alt reality, that's hyperstition, that's all of it wrapped in one. That this man is creating a whole reality that doesn't even exist to deflect from the fact that his hands and his mouth and everything is bloody, right? That's crazy. But this is who we dealing with, okay? So let's go down the Kirk rabbit hole, y'all. Let's go down the Captain Kirk rabbit hole and